And to be honest, I think that the reason why we want to save and fix other people's pain is because we are really trying to fix our own and save parts of ourselves rather than just being with the pain.
Welcome to the Raising Wild Hearts podcast. I'm so glad you're here listening in as I get to the heart of the matter with the world's leading experts and authors in personal growth, transformation, positive psychology, and more. If you're a change maker, a cycle breaker, a revolutionary envisioning a more beautiful way to live, work, and play, well, me too. I'm your host, Ryann Watkin, and for the past decade, I've been alchemizing challenges to find the calm in the chaos. I believe we can change the world by starting at home in our own minds and hearts. And my hope is that these conversations are a light on your path. Let's go, wild ones. Hello, friend. Welcome back to the Raising Wild Hearts podcast. I'm so glad you are here as always. This is Ryann, your fearless host. I am so happy you're here joining in on this conversation today. It is a unique one. It's not something I've talked about on the podcast before. We're dipping our toes into plant medicine today, specifically psilocybin, or as many or most of you might know them as magic mushrooms. This is a topic that has had me curious for a little while because it's becoming, I guess, at least from where I'm standing, a little bit more mainstream. And a medicine journey is something not that I've decided to do, but something that's definitely been in my purview and kind of gently whispering to me that it could be a possibility for the future. So I am in research mode and super excited to welcome Susannah Stokes to the podcast. After serving in 2 combat tours in Afghanistan as a Marine Corps officer, Susannah experienced a spiritual awakening that changed her forever. Since then, she's dedicated her life as an energy priestess and embodied consciousness guide. She's served dozens of people in one-on-one and group ceremonies, guiding them in their own spiritual awakening process. She co-founded House of Embodied Metamorphosis, a 508c1a faith-based organization that utilizes the metamorphosis method and their proprietary strain of psilocybin to create powerful personal transformations through retreats and coaching programs. And actually, I did not ask Susannah at all about her Marine Corps experience, but you guys can go back and listen to her interviews on a bunch of other podcasts. I know that she has talked about it on some other shows, but after you listen to this one, of course. So we do talk about a lot, though. We talk about leadership, which is kind of a through line on the show right now, if you guys haven't noticed. We talk about co-creation. We talk about collaboration. We talk about metamorphosis, of course, and transformation from within. We talk about energy. What is energy? Why work with energy? We also talk about and dive in a little bit to pain and suffering and how to stay present, or how to attempt to stay present in the midst of your own and others' pain. So this conversation is really, really inspiring. It's really, really fun. Susannah's super knowledgeable. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the conversation as much as I did. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And if you know somebody who would benefit from this conversation, text them over the link. Share the love. All right, y'all, let's jump in.
Please note, the opinions and perspectives of guests on the Raising Wild Hearts podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of Ryann Watkin or anyone associated with the Raising Wild Hearts podcast.
Hi, Susannah. Welcome to the Raising Wild Hearts podcast.
Hi, Ryann. It's so good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Totally. I'm so excited that you're here. I know this conversation will be a profound one. And the place I want to jump off, a common thread that we've been pulling on the podcast recently, is leadership. And so when I think of leadership, I think of kind of an old paradigm that was a little more authoritarian, and this new paradigm that I'm envisioning, at least, that is much more collaborative and many, many things. But so I'm curious, from where you're standing, what qualities are leaders being asked to step into in this time?
Oh, yes. What a beautiful way to kick off this conversation, especially since I was raised in the old paradigm of leadership in a really big way. Having served in the military and been a leader in the military as an officer, you're kind of thrust into the military and they say, okay, go lead people simply because we gave you this title and now you are the leader. And that is really not merit-based. And I would say the first quality is merit-based leadership, because now we're seeking leaders who really deserve to be leaders because they not only have done the inner work to clear out their sort of selfish, egotistical initiatives and agendas and cared for the rest, like cared for others. Somewhat, it's not necessarily more, not kind of in the ways that we've been taught in the Christian church, right? Like care for others more than yourself, right? That's where we get martyrdom. But that beautiful balance of merit-based leadership from a place of genuine, deep service.
Yeah.
And I would say that this also gets into one of the things I like to invite people into is like to see a visualization. I see us in society now living in what's called Indra's net. And that's a concept in Buddhism. Basically, imagine a net all across Earth. And every single one of us is where 2 or 3 points, like where the lines cross, right? And we are a little point right there. And the leaders, to me, are the bigger nodes of Indra's net. So we're not above anybody. We're not, no one is below or above anyone else. We are simply connected to everyone else. And there are some that are kind of like these little power stations that are processing a little bit more energy than some of the others. And those are the leaders. And you are a conduit. And you just happen to be a bigger conduit than maybe some of the people around you.
So you said a word that I want to unravel. You said processing more energy. It was a phrase, not a word. You said some words that I want to talk about. So I want to talk about energetics just in general, because I've been a student of Kundalini yoga for 7 years. It is a yoga of energetics. And I still have a hard time putting it into words. And so when someone asks me about my practice, or when I really get into like a conversation about what is energy and, what does it mean and all of that, I have a hard time kind of defining it, right? And of course, it is hard to nail down those very big, broad concepts. But what would you say energetics is all about? What's at play here? And for someone who's like, energy, okay, sure, what's that? Is that how I'm feeling on a certain day? Is that I'm feeling good or I'm feeling bad? Like, what would you say to that person on how to break down we are energy and we can work with and tap into energy?
I'm like, ooh, you're just like touching on my favorite subject. How deep do I go?
Deep, all the way.
Yeah, all the way deep.
All the way.
Let's go to the root. So the first time I became sort of aware of energy it was like the combination, was the coming together of living on a farm, growing up on a farm, and feeling the interconnectedness of all things as a natural feeling as a child. And then being in, it had to have been just like general science class, because you don't get like physics until high school, right? So elementary school, general science class, they're like, everything is energy and energy cannot be created nor destroyed. And I was like, ooh. So that's when I started to think about, well, if everything is energy, if this table is energy and this table is vibrating, or this mug that I'm holding is vibrating. I'm vibrating, then I'm energy, and I can't be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed. And that to me is really a fundamental concept that then encourages us to recognize the fullness of who we are, because most of us see what is right in front of us because we're mostly associated with the egoic part of ourselves. And the ego, when I speak about the ego, we love the ego. It's a very important aspect. We can go into that later, but we often are imbalanced toward the ego, and we don't associate enough with our energy. And so beyond our physical body, and actually within our physical body, there is an entire energy body. And if you put your hands out in front of you or to the side of you, it extends basically to your fingertips and then some. So that's all you. All of that is your body. But most people, because we can't see it and we can't, quote, touch it, even though you can touch it, you can't feel it in the way that you can feel this mug or this sweatshirt. You don't think it exists. And so energy is this understanding that everything is energy, everything is vibration. In the Hermetic principles, one of the principles is everything is vibration. And it is a frequency that exists, and just some things happen to be denser. And so those vibrating molecules are closer together, and those vibrations are closer together, and then they look like physical matter. But then as you get farther and farther away, you realize that all of it's vibrating. All of it is energy passing through. And for those of us who consider ourselves to be leaders or conduits that are bigger conduits, I think of it like an energy system, like the energy system we have on the planet today, where you have like power lines, right? Some people are the transformers on the telephone poles. Some people are the wires themselves. And then there are some people who are a substation that's powering a little town. And then others who are a nuclear power plant that are powering a country, right? So you have people who have opened their energetic channels and are recognizing that they have the ability to transmit this energy in a bigger and more effective, powerful, quite literally powerful way.
Hey, it's me, Ryan. So something I do every single day to invest in my growth, besides connecting with the humans on this podcast, obviously, is reading. Reading is where it all started for me. I was 5 when I became obsessed with books, writing them, reading them, collecting them. I love how I can get inspired with new ideas and stories and ways to grow. That's why I ask all my guests what they're reading. And finally, you can check out all the book recommendations from the experts and authors on the show in one place at raisingwildhearts.com/books. There are some life changers in there like You Are the Placebo, and a few hidden gems like Sacred Motherhood and Living, Loving, and Learning. So if you want to get your hands on your next great read, check out the full list by heading to raisingwildhearts.com/books. Okay, back to the show. Yeah, love it. That is a great example, a great way to put it. As you were talking, the word discernment came into my space, came into my bubble, came into my energy, because I think when we start to talk about, how powerful we are, how big our field is, there is this process that I've gone through of discernment. I used to like loud parties and late parties and concerts and all these very social things with like recreational drugs and alcohol. And now when I walk into a space like that, my body is just saying, no, 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 no. No. And I've had to listen to her, learn to listen to her. And I think for me, it's like navigating this discernment, this awareness on a body and energetic level of, does this feel good to me? So what's your take on discernment and how we can use it to harness, our energy in a more I guess, efficient way.
Yeah. Or effective, right?
Effective. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and co-creative way with ourselves and others. You mentioned about being an avid Kundalini practitioner. And I would say that that is one of the ways that you and many others are honing their discernment. Because as conduits of energy, if you look at the energy body, we are made up of what I would say is humans are actually just a pillar of light. When you do your meditation, you recognize that there is a central energetic channel, which is right in front of the spine. There's also the Kundalini channel that runs up the physical spine. And so they have these two major conduits that move through the center of the human body. And we are basically an antenna. And then if you expand that outward, your whole body becomes just a pillar of energy up and down between source, divine source, cosmic source, and earth source. And as you do this through something like Kundalini or breath work or plant medicine or whatever your chosen path is, you will begin to awaken all of the energy centers in the body. And we know there to be 7. There's many, many, many more. There's like hundreds of energy centers in the body. But the 7 major ones are associated with wounding that we have that create what I would say are like neuroses, right? There's things that our body then reaches for as a coping mechanism that is not in true alignment with what our soul and our spirit really wants in order to be nourished. And to be nourished, we want things that are genuinely nourishing. And one of my business partner at Metamorphosis says, don't be feasting on frosting all the time.
Totally. That's a great metaphor. Everybody knows how you feel after you've had 3 spoonfuls of frosting.
Exactly. You have a high and then you crash like a toddler, right?
Yes.
So it's not very discerning to be feasting on frosting. And what that creates is like a cycle, what I call the dopamine cortisol roller coaster, that then takes you into these loud places that are then overstimulating. They give you a rush of these hormones. So if the physical body reacts to the energy of it, and then afterward you have a crash. And after doing that so many times, which I am like the worst offender as well, because I also love to dance. And there's things that you can do in those places that feel nourishing, but the way we do it in those places and in those settings ultimately leaves us wanting a steak dinner, like a healthy, or if you're not, if you don't eat meat, then like a really powerful, like power bowl.
Yeah, right.
So you want to be nourishing yourself truly. And that to me is the discernment to say, no, thank you. I am only open to things that are going to really nourish myself on all 4 layers of my being.
Yeah. Love that. So I used to cope with those type of places with alcohol because that was like, my go-to. And I found what that did is just, this is in retrospect, absolutely, like not at the time. I wasn't thinking about this at the time, but in retrospect, I realized that it actually numbed me. So it wasn't like I was tapping into this higher vibration. It was like I was actually just being completely dulled down. And so I have this interesting, like this interesting reflection on party girl me, let's call her, that sweet baby girl who just thought she was like going for it. She, in so many ways, like I look back at pictures and she was like vibrant and she was happy and she was dancing and she was like free and she had this very, sensual and sexual and radiant and just like this really magnetic energy, even though I'm like, oh, I was numb though. I was numb. And so I'm trying to like reckon with, oh, she was drinking, numbing, kind of pushing down this pain, which had to come out, spoiler alert, it did.
Yep.
And now how do I tap, and how do we, someone who's resonating with this, tap back into that radiance, that embodiment, that beautiful magnetic energy without these harmful substances?
Yeah. So beautiful. I just love the soul family that we have on the planet right now. And how we are experiencing so many of the same things, as a collective. So I see you and I honor what you are working through and what I have been working through as well together.
Thank you.
The answer I'll offer is that when you start to awaken that energetic channel in the body, those conduits in the body, source energy starts to flow in. That's what Kundalini is doing, right? It's accessing source energy from all the places around you. And it hits what I would say are blocks, energetic blocks in the body. And sometimes I call myself I'm just a plumber.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just here helping
Minus
you
the butt crack hanging out.
clean your
Or
pipes,
maybe not.
Yeah. I'm just cleaning your pipes with you.
Right.
And basically you hit one of those blocks at some point when you're doing this, when you're opening yourself to that source energy. Yeah. And depending upon where that block is in the body, it produces a different kind of pain. And most of us try to navigate around it, because that's our natural tendency, is to feel as good as we can for as long as we can. We want pleasure, and we avoid the pain in order to feel pleasure. And the true answer, the nourishing answer, is to not avoid the pain. And this is what a lot of Buddhism teaches. It's to go directly into the pain and to go be present with the pain as long as you possibly can, and as present as you possibly can, to go through the block. So if you imagine, I'm a plumber, I don't want to go around the block of the pipe in order to clear the block. That doesn't make any sense. I want to go straight into the center and, hit it a few times with that snake to really break it up, and then let it explode, so that then the rest of my whole system works beautifully. And that process in our physical body is painful. It's inherently painful and uncomfortable. But the more that you can stay present with that journey, what happens is, on the other side of that experience, you experience true joy. When we're reaching for the coping mechanism or the thing that we're grasping for, we are finding that will, we're going to numb ourselves from the pain that is there, and it will just grow and grow and grow and grow and get bigger, because we're not looking at it and we're compartmentalizing against it. And on the next layer, if you really want to get to Zen level consciousness, the key is to recognize that the block itself and the pain is just as valuable and just as powerful and important of an experience in this life as the pleasure that you're reaching for on the other side. So actually, there is no difference in the block and the unblocked areas. It's the same. And the more that you can stay completely present with pain and be, okay, I'm just observing it. And then you do the same thing with joy and bliss and pleasure and happiness, and you don't weigh one or the other more importantly. That's some next level human stuff.
Yes, it is. Yes, that's so good.
Mm.
I just think staying present with the pain is so it's counterintuitive. Not really. That's not the right word. It's counterculture. I guess, if we think about back to when we were kids, I think many of us had well-meaning adults say, stop crying. Don't be sad. I still hear many adults say this. And I have 3 kids, 10 and under, and, they have little problems. They're still little, which is great. And it's good practice for when the problems get a little bit bigger for them. And I notice the tendency in myself when my 3-year-old is on the ground, so pissed off that we can't find his yellow spoon, that like that is real for him. Like that pain of that yellow spoon is like, it's real. And so to witness another's pain and not change it, talk them out of it, put frosting on it, have a cookie, like all the shit that we in our mind like want to do, like make this kid stop crying because I can't handle it. That's immediately what I think of. And it's so relevant to our work here. If you're a parent, I know you're a parent, a new parent, and, many of us have children in our lives, even though we're not parents, or our children are grown, whatever. Like when we think about being able to witness someone in anger, in sadness, in despair, like just letting the experience be. So what is your take on both witnessing in yourself and then witnessing in others, how we can kind of ground into the presence through the pain?
Oh man, this one touches deep because it is literally the process I'm in right now is, let it be, let it be. Oh, John Lennon. Fun fact, that song is the most famous medicine song in the world because when he talks about Mother Mary, he's speaking about Maria Sabina, who was the mushroom guide that many famous people went to back in the 60s. Mother Mary comes to me. And he's speaking about her saying, let it be. And so that process of letting it be, it is probably my greatest teacher. It's the letting go, surrender energy. And it's the second phase of awakening that I talk about when people go through cycles of rebirth. Trust and surrender is the second phase. And it is essentially trusting that there is something bigger that will hold that being, and also that being has their own intelligence, and that is sovereignty, right? It's allowing that being to have their own journey to come to the place of balance and harmony on their own, and to not try to fix or save or reach or say, let me numb that for you the way that I would numb it for myself. And to allow others to experience the pain that they need because they need that pain to awaken. But that's been a hard lesson for me because I don't know if I'm even like the expert on this yet, other than I've spent a lot of time unprogramming myself, deprogramming myself from trying to fix, because and metamorphosis is all about at least doing some version of guiding so that when people are in those places of discomfort, they come to us to be guided and to be held in their process. And I think that that's probably why I co-created it with my two sisters in this work, because it was a lesson. It was to put right in front of me that lesson of, you will not ever take these people's pain away. You will never, ever know what they're working through in its fullness because they have lived many lives that you don't know anything about. And everything that they're experiencing is important, and you just have to be present with it. And to be honest, I think that the reason why we want to save and fix other people's pain is because we are really trying to fix our own and save parts of ourselves rather than just being with the pain. So the more that you surround yourself with, or you put yourself in these places of what I would say are like hell on earth or chaos, the more you come into this centered place of realizing that it's not that I can't do anything, it's that the best thing for me to do is to just let it be and be my own self, be in stillness with myself.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So let's get into medicine journey a little bit. how does somebody know they're ready for a medicine journey? I'm imagining that just when I think about it, I've never gone on a medicine journey, but when I do think about it, there's a little bit of, I guess it's probably fear that comes up for me, and for a variety of different reasons. So how does somebody truly know, like, this is the next step on my path? Because I think for me, I'm like, oh, I will feel it. I will feel it when and if it's the right thing. So talk to somebody who's like, is this for me? Is this not for me? I feel a little scared, but it's like, is it scared and do it anyway? I always tell my kids, they'll be like, I'm scared. And I'm like, there's two types of scared. There's scared because this is not for you and this is a bad situation, or there is scared and you summon up that courage and this is for you and this is something you overcome. So let's talk about that a little bit.
I love that. I love that you're teaching your children that, because that is so real, that there are two different types of fear, one to overcome with courage, or to like have the courage to move through. And then there's another one that's just like a no, right? That's like, nope, this isn't for me. And to me, this goes back to our discussion around discernment, right? And I feel that there's an inner intuitive voice that tells you, and everyone has a slightly different way. I love human design because human design helps us understand which ways we make decisions. I'm an emotional decision maker, so I have to wait until my emotional wave gets like calm in order for me to hear that voice, that intuitive voice. Yeah.
Are you a generator then? Is that what?
I am a manifester. The decision making is sort of different from or separate from the types. So like it could be a generator with an emotional decision making, or sacral or splenic. But I'm a manifester. So yeah, I'm one of those initiators that kind of throws the bomb and then runs away.
That's cool. And I'm not surprised by that. Just knowing what I know about your work and this conversation, that does not surprise me at all. I'm a generator, which really quite honestly pisses me off. I'm like, I don't want to be a worker bee. What the hell? And so I've had to like come to terms with that. And from what I'm understanding it is that it's like, I have a tremendous amount of energy for the things that I am passionate about, for the causes that I really, truly feel are purposeful. And I also need to wait my turn to have that opportunities be presented to me. So that's how I understand it. And it makes me feel a little bit better with like grappling about like.
Well, I'll also offer, because I want to answer that first question, but this one's important because to me, there is an idea we have of human design where like the manifestors are the leaders and the initiators and the creators, and then the generators are the worker bees. And what I'm seeing is in the evolution of humanity, the roles are shifting a lot, and the world is run by and created by generators right now. So being a manifestor, living in the generator world is very uncomfortable, because I'm expected to be able to keep up with the energy that generators have. And I just do not have that. So on some level, my presence and my impact is now I really have to be part of that conduit web instead of above it or in a hierarchical system where I tell people what to do. I no longer, as a manifestor, can do that. I have to sort of suggest and share and give ideas gently, and the generators then turn it into reality. And it's actually something that I don't have the skill to do. I don't have the skill to maintain things, and things like social media, things like podcasts. Like I personally literally don't have the energy to maintain a project like that. Yeah. And those are the types of things that are required now in order to really get your message out. So I would offer that the generators are the new leaders. And the generators are the ones that are guiding the ways that we see the world, because you have the energy to get the message out on a regular basis. I always used to like kind of criticize myself, because I'd be like, why can't I post regularly on Instagram? And then I found out I was a manifestor and I was like, no wonder.
Totally.
So now I have a generator posting on Instagram for me.
Delegate. That's right.
But yeah. So to answer your question about feeling called to plant medicine, I have a similar kind of fear or, kind of uncertainty around Kundalini. So I would say props to you for being able to step into that space, because I actually have my own like, whoa, that feels like a lot of energy to boost in my system. But the process of like, hold on, baby brain is taking some of my thoughts away and I'm going to bring it right back.
Yes, you are. And we're here for it.
Feeling called to plant medicine is a calling. And as it relates to human design, it is good to know your decision making and your discernment method, because then you'll know, do I feel it in the gut? Do I feel it in the solar plexus? Am I supposed to feel it in the heart? Like you can kind of understand that based on your own process. But once you feel it in that place that helps you make decisions, that's when you feel called to it. And usually for me, the calling is I start to hear it a lot in conversation. People come to me and start to bring it into my field. And then there's a curiosity that builds and a sort of like, I wonder what that would be like. And there's always going to be fear that comes up, because going into a plant medicine ceremony is about, in some ways, shedding and clearing things and moving through blocks, right? So you're always going to feel some kind of fear. However, you want to wait until the curiosity overwhelms the fear to some extent. You want to have more curiosity going into it than fear, and certainly more curiosity than like pressure from other people or from other influences in your life. Yeah. So that's what I would say around like feeling called to it. And everyone will come for their own reason, but generally it's because you're in the first stage of awakening. And when I say the first stage, we go through several awakenings in our life. So you could have one at one stage and then one at another, and you could have 3 or 4 in a lifetime. But that first stage of rebirth and awakening is resistance. And so you're experiencing some kind of resistance in your life that's uncomfortable. And basically it's a block that's in your energy somewhere that you're not able to get to with other types of, medicines or means that you've been working with.
Yeah. So you said not able to get to with other medicines or means. I just wonder if it's like kind of the bullet train to healing, because I've been chopping wood and carrying water now for the better part of a decade. And I'm like, am I done yet? Like, is this it? Like, am I good? Am I, and I know that there's always evolution, there's always growth. But, for me, I'm like, is there, and this is my question to answer, right? But I'm thinking like, is there that other thing, something that still needs to take place, a ceremony, a ritual, a being witnessed, something like that? And, to speak on the decision-making process a little bit, we've kind of dove into this on the podcast. Like for me, those, love-based decisions really come from a calm and loving space. The ones that are based in fear typically feel a little frantic. They feel a little panicky. They feel a little like desperate and grasping and reaching. Whereas the other ones that are right and kind of for us feel very calm and knowing. And so I did want to speak on that. But so is this the bullet train to healing for those who are ready? And then let's dive into like what psilocybin is and all that kind of stuff.
Yes and no. Yeah, this is one of those questions where there really is two sides of this, or multiple sides. That it absolutely is, I think, a gift from the gods, if you will, right? A gift, I would say a gift from the aliens to help aid. And there's a reason why plant medicine rises up during these particular seasons of our evolution, right? 40,000 years ago, it appeared and helped us develop fire and civilization and started to help us group up and learn some of these tendencies. We had a massive shift in consciousness in our early humanoid embodiment. And now we're seeing them rise again. And they also rose during big civilizations like the Greeks and the Mayans and things like that. So we're seeing this happen again. And I believe that they are in the most respectful way possible, because they are beings also, but they are partners, they're guides, they're tools that I don't personally use, but I partner with and I connect with deeply as a process of opening myself in a more full way. And the way that they work neurologically is they quiet the default mode network of the brain. And what I've noticed in our society is that our egos have been overbuilt. The ego is it's an important part. You can't be a human without an ego. You have to have it. And also, it really needs to live in harmony with the spirit, and they need to be the same sort of level of presence in our beings. And right now we've overbuilt them, and we've also overprotected them. So we're more separate than we are the same and connected. And these medicines are the guides and the ones that are helping us open ourselves to the divine in a bigger way, to remember that we are all the same and we're all interconnected. So it is a bullet train in some ways. And in my experience, I know lots of people who have done many plant medicine ceremonies and are the exact same people as when they started.
They haven't made that and pointing that out. Yeah. Okay.
They haven't made a lot of they haven't really gotten to the next stop. They're on a circular train, right? Because chances are they haven't actually broken through and completed the karmic block or the karmic loop that they came into this lifetime with. And one of the reasons I call myself a priestess is because the call of the priestess archetype is to help people break out of karmic loops. So most of us come into a lifetime with a karmic loop, a particular karmic story that we're looping around in over and over and over again. And at some point, you need something that gets you out of that pattern-based behavior. And it manifests in things like addiction, deep shame, depression, anxiety, that then creates enough resistance that eventually you go seek something. And to me, plant medicines will break you out of that karmic loop, but you have to do the actual work to get there. And that is why we developed the metamorphosis method, which is preparation, experience, and integration. And you have to do all three parts if you actually want to see metamorphosis in your life.
Yeah. I love that you frame it as work, because it's not, much like parenting. I said the other day, is not a passive activity. It is very much like boots on the ground, in it, changing habits, noticing your thoughts, becoming aware, not just spouting off quotes, which is I feel like my journey kind of started with oh, I'm so positive. I look at all these books I'm reading and da da da. And it's oh shit. The work is walking the talk, becoming the quote that's so inspiring. And so for us to embody those tools, and I love the language that you said, I don't use plant medicine, I partner with. And what a simple shift, but it brings a profound intentionality to this partnership that you are co-creating with.
Well, we tend in this society right now, because we live in a hierarchical, sort of non-regenerative taking culture. And as we shift to the divine feminine, we're wanting to shift to regeneration, co-creation, collaboration, which means we have to see everything as on our level, right? There's no thing that I am taking advantage of or using for my own benefit. It is benefiting me. I am benefiting it. We are in partnership together. and co-creation. So that is very important to me. And it's an important message that the feminine is bringing, the rise of the feminine. And I would say that the work, and some people are like, oh, it's not, let's not talk about work, because we have this idea of how uncomfortable or unsavory like having to work is. I personally love work. I really enjoy it. I wouldn't have incarnated here if I didn't want to work hard. And maybe it's more effort, right? It's like taking consistent, disciplined effort toward the integration of whatever it was, whatever divine insight you gained from working with the plant medicines, with the medicines. You then take that every single day, you come back to it, which is one reason I like microdosing, because after you do a macro dose, you are able to then reach back into that macro dose experience over time. And every single day, you will at some point walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And you have to take an intentional step every single day in that valley of the shadow of death until you get to the other side and you realize what all the work that you've put in, all the effort that you've put in has now intentionally changed you into something new. And I believe in change. I believe in metamorphosis. I believe in rebirthing ourselves many times over a lifetime. And a lot of people do have fear around that, like, oh, don't change me, or, I'm not going to change. The only constant is change.
Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm. So let's get into what psilocybin is. Like, it's magic mushrooms, yeah, but it's created in a lab. And I'm curious I'm curious about a lot, but I'm curious if it's like made with intentionality and there's like these like kind of positive intentions being put into it, or I'm like, is it like being done in a lab with these like dudes in lab coats who just had like pizza for lunch, or like, I don't know. That's like my silly head going, like, that's where I go. Welcome to my brain. And then how does anyone listening who's really curious about it, like, how do you get access to it? I mean, I know that your organization does amazing things, and we're going to we're going to learn more about it before we go here, and we're going to put all the links in the show notes. But like, if we're like, yeah, I think that's, that sounds right for me. Like, where do we even start?
This is, it's such a powerful discussion to understand also the lineage and where things come from and how they're created. And that's deeply important to us. So I co-founded 2 organizations. One is Metamorphosis Ventures. One is House of Embodied Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis Ventures is where all of our coaching, all of our online programs, all of that lives, and where we do a lot of that work with our community. House of Embodied Metamorphosis is where we do our ceremonial work, because it's a 508c1a, which is a faith-based organization, a church. And there is a right within the United States that allows us to do that work with a sacred sacrament that we choose. And ours is psilocybin. There's actually a list in our statement beliefs of LSD, psilocybin, DMT, several different substances, and some heart allies that are based in MDA and MDMA that we work with as well. All of those are our sacraments that we use.
Is that a federal law, or is that state by state?
It's based on the Freedom of Religious Restoration Act and a Supreme Court case that established the precedent for that from the Santo Daime Church that came to the United States I believe they came they came quite a long time ago, but then they basically were targeted by the DEA at one point and shut down working with ayahuasca. And they said, no. We've been doing this in Brazil for like a long time. And B, this is our sacrament. This is how we worship God. And you can't take this away from us because we have freedom of religion and religious practice. And so they brought that all the way up to the Supreme Court, and that established the precedent for entheogenic churches. So now there are hundreds of entheogenic churches within the United States. Some are more serious than others. Some, aren't necessarily doing it in the most authentic and integrous way. Our church bases our practice on spirituality, and so we are a very genuine community with gatherings and such. Our medicine is a whole mushroom. So we don't work with lab-based psilocybin. Psilocybin is the active ingredient in psychoactive hallucinogenic mushrooms. And for the purposes of a lot of the testing that they do at like the Johns Hopkins Center for Consciousness Research and a lot of the different centers that have been set up over the last decade, or in the last like 5 years, really, they will work with lab-based psilocybin. And the reason for that is they're able to then titrate the exact dosage and maintain it so that they can then use it in a double-blind study or in studies that can maintain the sort of scientific rigor necessary. And that's based on the lack of rigor that happened in the early studies of LSD back in the 60s and 70s that kind of created the backlash against psychedelics, because there was a little more loosey-goosey in those days. And now they want to be very, very strict. But with us, because we're working in a healing practice and we're not doing yet as much research-based work, we are wanting to have people experience the entire mushroom, because we believe that it's not just the psilocybin active ingredient that's active. We believe the entire plant is that, well, fungi, I should say. It's kind of a misnomer that we call it plant medicine, because the mushrooms are like, we're not plants.
Right.
So
that's so true. I
but
mean,
we
I
work
never
with
thought
the
about
whole
that.
thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Wow. That's really cool. So are you like
Yeah.
making a tea, or you're just like taking a bite out of a mushroom? Like
Yeah. So we connect with the medicine and we ask it how it prefers to be consumed, because they are our guides in their process, and then we work with them. So we cultivate it within our community. So we have a sort of cradle to grave supply chain. And people can engage with our strain, the strain of psilocybin that we cultivate. We don't believe that you can own a strain or anything like that. You just cultivate a particular one, and then that one kind of also co-creates with the energy of your community, with your grower. And ours is called Trinity. And when you consume it in ceremony, you'll consume the entire dried mushroom. So basically, our grower will grow it, pray over it, offer energy to it, play music to it, and then in ceremony, and I would say her, because she's actually a little more feminine than she is masculine. And then in ceremony, you will receive a nice little pile of dried whole mushrooms that are Trinity. And then you'll eat them one by one, and we'll give you a little pile of blueberries too that you can have alongside. And then when you have the after the fact, you'll be encouraged to work with a microdose, and the microdoses are capsules. Our capsules. Give me 1 second, Ryan.
Yep.
Baby things.
Yes, I get it. Okay. So this is amazing. Thank you so much. I am like so curious about all of this. First, I want to have you tell us like where we can follow along, where we can learn more information about your two amazing organizations. And yes, tell us like where we can find you.
Absolutely. You can find us at metamorphosis.ventures, which is our website. And on there, you can also connect with and learn more about House of Embodied Metamorphosis. You can also donate or contribute for a micro kit. So that's a 13-week kit of microdose capsules. They're 90 milligrams each of Trinity. And then you can also follow us at Embodied Metamorphosis on Instagram. And you can follow me personally at Susannah Roses on Instagram. And a bunch of other places, LinkedIn, all sorts. I'm everywhere. But we would love to have you there. And when you do, reach out on our website, we also have an announcement group on WhatsApp that we like to engage our community with. And you can sign up for little tips and tricks. We give you transformation tools for your life. And we also share, unique little events that our community is hosting every month.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your depth of knowledge and just the fun way that you talk about this. And it was super healing for me, but also like really educational. So thank you.
It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah. So as we officially wrap up, I'm going to ask you the 3 questions I ask everybody at the end of the interview. And the first one is, what's bringing you joy today?
Being seen by sisters that are walking that shadow of the valley of death that I was mentioning, being witnessed and seen, and also seeing them. Yeah, that's bringing me joy today.
Beautiful. What, if anything, are you reading right now?
Oh yeah, I am reading. I'm reading a book by Pema Chodron. She is a very famous Buddhist nun that I follow, and I love her work because it's so down to earth. And her book, this one is called The Wisdom of No Escape.
Ooh.
And it's essentially a guide on how to not avoid anything.
Well, that's on my list, everybody. You heard it here first. That's on my list. She's
and it's pretty short.
Is it? Okay, good. Even better.
It's a series of talks that she gave over the course of like a week-long retreat, and they just like printed them. And so,
Cool.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's funny. It's witty. It's deep. And it's also a little scary because you're like, oh yeah, I can't escape from the human experience. So I'm just gonna be in it. Oh, yeah.
Cool. That is so on my list. Actually, it's moving up to the top of the queue. And then the last question I have for you is, who or what has taught you the most?
Love. Love has taught me the most. All the different aspects of love and all the ways that I thought were love that weren't, that were actually fear. And then all the ways that I have now opened and allowed my heart to break in service of love has taught me the most.
Thank you so much. This conversation was beautiful.
Thank you.
Hi again, friend. If you're listening to this, you made it to the end of a Raising Wild Hearts episode. Yay! Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you can hear more amazing conversations just like this one. And here's the deal. If you made it this far, go ahead and hop down on your podcast app and rate and review the show. Your words and 5 stars truly mean the world to me. Thank you for your support of the show. Thank you for showing up and listening week after week. I will be dropping new episodes every Monday, so tune in then, and I will talk to you soon.